From the Depth Instant Tutorial.
You're watching From the Depth Instant Tutorials, and today we're going to look at how to build a simple car. So we're starting to build in the air here, and we need to make sure we know which is the front, which we can see on this big arrow here and this text. So basically now we're going to make a little framework, and cars generally want to be somewhat heavy because otherwise they will have bad stability. So we're going to build our little base plate out of metal to get some kind of rigidity at the base. Under land you can have different anti-roll bars. We're going to select the anti-roll bar for 5 meter builds. So we can make it 5 meters wide here, and we'll just make some decent placements of our anti-roll bars. It immediately complains that no wheels are attached, and this we will fix. Now there are a lot of different wheels here you can choose from, and you can of course choose any of them. We're going to go with a 1 meter wheel variant. There are wide wheels and there are thin wheels. The wide wheels actually have more health, and they're sturdier because they're bigger, so they're also more expensive. So select one of the turning wheels and place them down there. And now you can see that this is probably not very nice, because you can go into the wheel configuration and you can have show suspension. And here you can see immediately which side the suspension is on. So we're gonna place it here, because if we want to enable the suspension, it looks weird otherwise. Here at the back, we're instead going to have the drive wheel. So plop down the drive wheel there, and here we go. So we can release our vehicle down to the ground, and we can fiddle around with the suspension and stuff a little bit later on. Now I added some decorative blocks there, and we're going to add an engine. Now wheels don't take up that much power. If you look at it, max power use is 10 at the moment. So this means that our engine can be quite small indeed, and we can still harness the full power of it. So we're just gonna go to fuel engines and select a little engine here. Of course we can make our own engine, and I will design a little nice looking engine for this thing. And there we go. I've built in this little engine, 3-cylinder, and we have a supercharger engine. So this is because I want to take the maximum RPM down to about half and make it a little bit more efficient. Now we of course need some resources, so we will need fuel storage. We're gonna plop down a fuel storage tank there and fill it up with some materials. When we look at it, we see that we estimate you require a maximum of 45 materials per minute for fuel. This means that 1 fuel box is enough for this engine, and it already produces 230 power. Now let's design a basic AI for this little craft, so we don't need very much. Just a laser rangefinder, a visual camera, and a mainframe, a wireless transmitter, and 1 general purpose processing card. On top of that, we're going to have the luxury of having one of these inter-vehicle transmitters, so that we can transmit data between our crafts. Very nice. And this one, despite the model, needs to be connected up like this still. Right, so first we need to select the little behavior. And of course any of these works very fine if you set them up correctly. Circle is probably kind of common, but we want this one to go in a little bit closer. So we're going to select the broadside 2.0, and we can leave the settings as is for the time of being. Alright, so under vehicle type you need to set it on land. And then you can scroll down here, land height required. And we can set it to pathfind for 2 meters deep water, so we can set it to -2, so it can dip its toes a little bit. Now the turning circle for this vehicle is probably quite less, so we set it to 25. It's probably lower, but we can tinkle around a little bit with that. The maneuver, we can set and add a maneuver here, so then we can select a ship or tank would be usable for this one. And then we can just, it should be set up. Now when we know about how we set up this vehicle, it's definitely time to add some exhausts to this thing before it gets overheated. If we put it through some more, I don't know, if we use more of the power it might get overheated. So we'll just add a nice little exhaust here, and then you can route it back like that. And we can have a hole pipe here to make it flush, and it needs to go all the way there, so we can have the exhaust sticking out there. We add a couple of radiators for extra efficiency, of course. The cooler the engine goes, the more efficient it is. When constructing the hull of this thing, it's a smart idea to put down some rubber pieces on the bottom here, so that we can absorb impact damage in case we run into something or back into something a little bit. This will hugely increase the survivability of crafts like this. Of course, like sea vehicles, you can of course have a lot of rams and stuff on to make melee vehicles. I'm gonna make this flatbed truck version here. So we have alloy on top here to not make it top heavy, because if this is top heavy it might fall over. So we're just gonna add some simple weapons here with a all-in-one weapon controller below, and here we have a simple anti-air vehicle. Something like that. So basically now we can also add some steering units so that we can test out and fiddle around a little bit with some settings here. So we're gonna add a vehicle controller. When we have some weapons, however, it's probably smart to have one ammo barrel somewhere in here. Very nice. The default is 50, and with this gun only we need 70. So in our case we need an ammo barrel actually. In any case, we're going to go in here and just test drive this thing. And we can see it tilts back, why we also have these bumpers back there. And we can turn without tilting over. If we have some stability problems, however, we're gonna test backwards, of course. We can see there is a small risk we were tilting over if we were driving on a hill, upside down or something. So what we can do is we can go to lead, and we can add some small weight on the bottom. Now a 3-beam block of lead is a kind of huge weight, but we can drag the center of mass to the more bottom of the vehicle, which can be very handy. So we have the roll bar here, and it stabilizes the craft by putting a force on the vehicle when it's starting to roll. If we put this to max, it's gonna lag around a little bit like this. This means our vehicle is too light for the roll bar setting. So we should drag this down to something suitable. 0.05 is probably good for a vehicle like this. So half the default. And the more you have, the more jerky it will be to the sides to make it not flip over. Alright, then we also have the suspension and the length of the wheels. So we go to wheel configuration. We can set up the max steer angle here and stuff. But here you have the spring length. It can be as much as 3 meters. So copy to all wheels. And now you can suddenly see this vehicle is suddenly like not very stable and flipping over and stuff. And we can of course go to wheel configuration and set the spring force to something lower. And if we have more wheels than just 4, this can be a good idea. So we copy to all wheels, and then we release it down, and you can see now it's really soft suspension, and this is of course not very good for driving around. But as you can see, there is something that's too hard as well. This is the maximum spring force, and this will of course not work very well either. It can in some circumstances, but you'll have to play around with your particular vehicle to understand exactly what you need. We also have the damper bump force and rebound force, and that basically controls the bounciness of the vehicle. Now we can also control forward and side friction, and this can be a good idea if we want better grip. But if we go to better grip, it's a big risk we actually flip over. Let me show you. Now we really grip too tightly here, and you can see we're completely like lifting. We don't get a chance for all the wheels to kind of touch. So a lot of the times the preset values are actually pretty good. As you might notice, however, is that we're lifting a little bit too much in the front here. To fix that, we go to the back wheels and we increase the spring force for both of these wheels. And when we have done that, you can see that the vehicle is no longer tilting very much when driving around. Very handy. Make sure, however, that it doesn't flip over when you're going backwards, because in that case you need to fix it. And there we have it. That's how to build a very basic car in from the depth. And by the way, you can decrease the engine's RPM output when using supercharger to so low that you can go if you want that best performance from it. In any case, I think this car is done. Bam! Thanks for watching, Jimadism signing out.